webinar in ReNeU Logistics and Transportation by Office of Vice-Chancellor Research and Innovation UiTM. Before we start, kindly please mute the mic and type any question at the chat box, or even unmute the mic to raise any question during the Q&A session. So without further ado, our speaker for this webinar is Associate Professor Dr. Muhammad Rizaimy Shaharudin. He will share the topic in reverse logistics, a basic understanding. And before we get started, let me introduce our speaker today. Associate Professor Dr. Muhammad Rizaimy Shaharudin is actually an Associate Professor at University Technology Mara, Faculty Business and Management. He is now Deputy Director of Logistics and Transportation at ReNeU Logistics and Transportation. He actually graduated from University Science of Malaysia with a PhD in Supply Chain Management. Interestingly, he worked previously at National Motorcycle Engine Sdn Bhd for 12 years. And he is in work in procurement section head, and from 2020 to 2022 he is assigned as visiting professor at Swan Senanda Rajabat University in Bangkok, Thailand. That's most significant. He was also named an associate fellow at Institute of Smart Manufacturing Research (SMRI), and hold a certificate trainer in the Ministry of Human Resources, Department of Skill Development. He has authored or co-authored almost 80 scientific publications in journal articles, conference proceeding, and also book chapter. And he has also acted as a referee for several prestigious journals in his related area. He also a member of various journals as editorial board and also technical committee for in selected international conference. So we hope with his background and also, of course, with the topic that he wants to share for today, we will benefit through an important sharing for today. And now I would like to invite our speaker to share his topic about reverse logistics, a basic understanding. Your session is ready for you, Dr. Rizaimy.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Rafeah, as the moderator for the program for today. So, first of all, I would like to thank you to all of you who attended the webinar today. I hope you can hear me very clear. All right. And today will be the first webinar that we organized under the ReNeU Logistics and Transportation. And from time to time, we will continue to carry out this webinar, this kind of webinar, but for other topics under the logistics and transportation. The idea is we would like to share any related topics or research in logistics transportation so that it can benefit the researchers, especially from UiTM. All right, so without further ado, so I would like to continue, with the webinar today. So I think they all see the slides on the screen right now. You all see now?
Yes, we can see.
Right. So this area is actually not really new, right? It has been explored by the researchers over the world in the past, I can see 2 decades ago, right? In the last 20 years, we can see the publication in this area. But it is not really popular at that time. Okay, and throughout the time, this area is getting important, reverse logistics. Because now you see the world is going for the sustainability, right? So there is a area, especially like reverse logistics, which is really suit very well in supporting to support the sustainability in the supply chain. So it becomes nowadays one of quite important areas that have been studies in the logistics areas, all right? And I would like to share with you later on the publication that I did in this area. I managed to publish in good journals too, right? Because of the significance of this area, all right, to the body knowledge as well as to the practical implementation, to the to the industries, to the policy makers, as well as to the industry players as well. All right, so this will be the contents of my presentation today. All right, the first one I will look into the definition, all right, because today we will just go into a very basic about the logistics. Yeah, that will be the first one, the definition, and number 2, why it is important, right? Then we will see on the flow of product, okay, and then I will relate it with the activities in the reverse logistics. Then we will make a comparison between forward and reverse flow chain. Then next one, the sources of product returns, right? Because this is the most important part under the reverse supply chain, which is the product returns, right? And then we have sustainability. Is it relates to the sustainability, right? And then I will give you a few case studies summary, right, for us to actually have some idea what is actually reverse logistics is all about, and what is the practice that actually being implemented by the industry nowadays. And then we have the conclusions, right? So as a definition, there are actually I've brought to you two definitions. Actually, you can find many other definitions, right, from the published articles, right? But I think these two have been selected because of the definition came from the quite prominent researcher in the area. Yeah. If you look here, right, there are two definitions. The first one from Rogers and Timberlamp in 1999, and another one definition from the European Working Group on Reverse Logistics, or REFLOG, in 1998. So we go to the first one. Rogers and Timberlamp in 1999 said reverse logistics is the process of planning, implementing and controlling the efficient, cost-effective flow of raw materials in process inventory, finished goods and related information from the point of consumption to the point of origin for the purpose of recapturing value of the or proper disposal, right? So this is about how products in the markets now return to the manufacturer, right? For reasons of recapture the value or proper disposal. That is the first one. And another definition here is almost the same, but I think REFLOG in 1998, European Working Group on Reverse Logistics here. Yeah.
Doctor, can you click the slideshow?
Oh, I see. Okay. Right.
Thank you.
Sorry, so sorry for that. If you look at the next one is actually by the Rafeah. Rafeah in 1998 actually is almost similar in terms of the definition. The only difference is the one that I have highlighted in the blue color. Instead of the point of consumption, but for Rafeah, they actually they look into the perspective of more details. Where is actually the source of product returns, the source of products that move through the reverse logistics, which is here from a manufacturing, distribution, or use point to the point of recovery or point of proper disposal. Right? Actually, it's almost the same, but they define it in more details. If you read from Rafeah, they argue, right? After that, they argue what's actually the difference between their definition and also the Rogers and Tillman 1999 definition. Because they said we cannot go into a very general, just simply we mentioned the consumption, because actually the source of returns can be also come in the form of unsold products, unsold product, which you don't sell the product yet, and you bring it back to the manufacturer or retailers to reorganize its distribution, right? So that is the argument. That's why they said you cannot go on into general. So that's why you must be a bit more details in terms of the definitions here. So the source is from a manufacturing, distribution, or use point. Okay, all right. So that is the definition. I hope all of you now will be clear about the reverse logistics. And why is this important? So I have this down here. There are 10 points of the importance of reverse logistics. Okay? The first one, it can bring the additional revenue, right, to the company by doing the refurbishing, repairing, and recycling the goods. Or we call it recovery of the goods. Or salvage, in other words, is quite common use, recovery or salvage the used product, right? That is number one. Number two, selling off return products or materials, right? So return products actually can be sold. And you can see in the market today, like handphone industry, right? Handphone, for example, or PC, right? Some brands now can be sold as a second hand, right? And there are market for them, right? So that is the examples of the reverse logistics. So you have to apply the concept of reverse logistics, that only this product can be resell to the customer, right? And the third one, brands that offer recycling for end-of-life goods also enjoy recognition for efficiency and also the good practice, right? Because they don't rely from the natural resources. So they make use both, either natural as well as with the recycle or used products or materials, right? For example, here like Apple, Apple Reverse Logistics, they provide with a discount when the customer return the old devices. It's the same like other brands in businesses, Malaysia, for example, right? You can always, certain models or brands of handphones, you can trade in for a new one, right? So Apple's, besides they provide the discount for purchase for the new new products, right? Apple also gain from the reused parts and materials from the end-of-life goods. So they make use the materials and components for the product that reach to the end of life. So there is I can say the old products, there are some valuable materials that you can make use of it and use in the production of the new products, right? And you see another one, why reverse logistics is important, because the company has started to liberalize the return policy. In Malaysia, it's not really rampant, or it's not really widely in practice. But in the developed countries, right, the customers are given the cooling off period, right, where they have a time to rethink of their purchase, right? And they can always return the product without the questions asked by the retailers, right? So that is very clear. Although this is a part of the marketing strategy, but the products that have been returned needs a proper process to manage it. That's why we need the reverse logistics here. And the study has been done. It shows that 90% of consumers will not repeat the purchase if they suffer difficulties during the return process, right? So companies today, online business, for example, must facilitate the process of returns so that the customer will be happy and will return to buy the products from the company again, right? And I think this is the points that I've mentioned just now. Higher volume of product returns due to the growing of sales online, right? So the sales online, there are many returns because of so many reasons. Customers are not happy with the products, and the customer finds it has a defect. There is a defect of the product. It's not suits to their what they expect, and they can return it, right? But of course, you must have a good reasons why you are returning the products, all right? And then another one, why is important waste reduction, right? In reverse logistics, the recovery practices really play a very important role here, right? Where those materials or parts, used materials or parts can be reused back again, remanufactured, recycled, right? So in the end, it will contribute to the waste reduction, right? So there is not much that we will throw to the environment because most of the products that we reach to the end of life will be fully utilized, right? In terms of their components and parts, right? And then circular economy, you see, this is a new term that people are talking about, right? If you look here, why we are talking about this circular economy, because it has the impact on the country policy, right? So this has been mentioned here. The countries is going for the circular economy, all right, under the Shared Prosperity Vision 2030, and as well as in the 12th Mission Plan from 2021 to 2025, circular economy. So here, when it comes to the reverse logistics, what is the contributions in the circular economy is where the products move in the circular, all right, throughout the life cycle, right? And the life of the product will be extended to this circularity, right? And then the last one, this is the extended producer responsibility, EPR policy. So you see, in our country, we have a policy on this, but it's not being practiced yet, the extended producer responsibility. But in other countries, they have make it mandatory that the manufacturers will be responsible for the products that they sold in the market, right? It's not just simply they are responsible after they sold the product, but when the products are reached to the end of life, they must also be responsible with their product. Okay, so this is what this policy is all about: extended producer responsibility, right? Next one. This is the flow of products. You see how reverse logistics here can the process of reverse logistics, right? How it can function, right? So if you look here, the most common that we have today is the forward logistics, right? It has been in the existence as long as the products that we have sold in the market, right? This forward logistics has been there for a very long time, right? So what is a forward logistics is where the products are manufactured, right? And then sell to the customer. That's all, right? So this is what actually the manufacturers are doing. Okay, from the raw materials now, they will go into the production process, part fabrication, modules, sub-assembly, part assembly, and then go to the inventory, and after that, they will sell to the customer. That is the forward logistics. So reverse logistics here is actually applied to all the product returns, right? Back to the seller or manufacturer. So what is the use here? For reuse, right? You must undergo under any one of these activities. Either it will go to the reuse, repair, remanufacture, part fabrications, right? And then raw materials, and then will transfer it back to the forward logistics. Okay, so I think like repair, we all are very familiar with this, right? The repair, that is also a part of reverse logistics, all right? For all the products that we bought and we found there is a defect with the products, right? So we, especially products that's under warranty, so we can always return it back to the manufacturer. Usually now we can send, like electronics product, we will send it back to the service center, right? And the service center will channel the defects to the manufacturer to repair, and then they will return back, okay, to the customer. Okay, but here we are talking about mostly not only the defect products. We are referring to the end of life products, products that have been used by the customer, and then customer have no more needs for that products anymore, right? For example, like refrigerator, if you use for 10 years, after that you intend to change with the new one, right? So what are you going to do with the old refrigerators? So through a reverse logistics, these old refrigerators now can be returned back, right? To the manufacturer or to those party that are interested with the old refrigerators, so that these old refrigerators can be dismantled and they can take the components and parts and use it back in the productions of the new product. Or some of the components you can actually recycle it, right? You change the total form of its, we call it the form of its product, the total form of its product, you change totally, right, to the recycling activities, right? Whereas like remanufacturing, you need to change some of the parts, right, and components, and then after that you are going to sell it back again. Okay, and part fabrication, this is about the components of parts that you take from the old refrigerator just now, and you do some modification or changes to the parts itself, so that it will be useful for as raw materials to use in the production of a new refrigerator, right? So actually this is quite new, right? Quite new in the industry. That's why I think I would like to share of this area with all of you, because there are a lot of opportunity to do this study, right, or to do research, right, in this area. I can say in our country, we are still at the beginning stage of the reverse logistics, right? There are many things that we need to do, all right? So far, we rely now. We can see the functions of means the reverse logistics are mainly very clear. Is in practice by the scrap dealer, right? But not very active by the manufacturers. Okay, so scrap dealers, we know how they operate, right? They are not really sustainable. So there are a lot of many things that we need to do to restructure the reverse logistics functions in our country, right? So I think our country will look into it, right, in more, let's say, more serious, right? Especially when the government has devised the policy just now that I mentioned to you just now, Kawasan Kemakmuran Bersama 2030, as well as with the new Malaysian plan, Malaysian plan 2021 until 2025, right? Okay, so let's go to the next one, right? So actually here, reverse logistics. What are the activities that actually been practiced in the reverse logistics? So actually, you can look from many perspectives here, but to me, I have divided into four components, right, under the reverse logistics. The first one, I group all of these activities under the product returns, right? The second one, recovery or salvage just now, and then remarketing, and then the next one is the disposal, right? So product returns. So what are the activities under the reverse logistics? The first one is the product acquisition, right? How do you acquire the used products from the market, from the consumer or from the retailers, right? From any parties, so that these used products can be returned to the retailers or returned to the manufacturers, right? Then we have the next one is reverse distribution. So reverse distribution is the totally logistics function where those used products require transportation, right, and also warehousing to move the returns, right, from the consumer to the manufacturer, right? Then the next one will be the returns of goods by the customers. Actually, product returns, there are three sources. From the literatures, it's mentioned there are three resources. The first one, product returns from the customers, right? I will go into more details for each of these type of returns here after this, right? Return of unsold goods by distribution partners due to contract terms, right? This is what also that I have mentioned about. There are also products that are unsold in the market. And these products require reorganization in terms of its channel distribution, right? From one seller need to move to another seller, right? And then the next one is the returns of goods during distribution, right? During delivery, there are some goods that have a defect, right? Scratches, defects during delivery. And these goods definitely will not be accepted by the customer, right? And it needs to be returned to the manufacturer. And the last one will be returns of goods during manufacturing, right? So this is also a part of another source of product returns, where during manufacturing, it will produce byproducts or scraps, or also defects, right? Where you can rework or use the materials or products back, right? Either through a repair or either through recycling, or you use any other recovery methods so that it can be used back again, right? For example, like one factory, when I did my study last few years back, in one of the electronic company in Sungai Petani, Kedah, right? Actually, they are producing electronic products, and you see, one of the process is to you know soldering the electronic board, soldering the electronic board. And during the soldering process, there are many byproducts where the aluminiums are dropped on the floor, right? Drop on the floor. Quite many during the soldering of the electronics boards. So what is actually this factory is doing? They will collect back those drop solder, right? And then they will use it back in the production. So they will recycle it and use it back. Okay, so that is also one of the example of product returns from the manufacturer, right? During the manufacturing. So that's why I see here there are 3 types of sources of product returns under the reverse logistics. We will go into a more detailed substudy. Right. And the next one, another activities of product under the reverse logistics is the recovery, right? So this recovery involve a few activities here. For example, like reuse, right? Reuse of the packaging, refurbishment, reuse here, reuse of the packaging. For example, like the basket that used to deliver fruits and vegetables, right? The baskets here will be reused again and again and again, right? So probably the investment probably a few times, but in terms of the use of the basket, you can use many times. It's made by the plastic, right? I think you can visualize how it looks like, the packaging itself, right? So you reuse it. You can see at the market, as for markets, right? As well as you can see near to the streets where people are selling fruits and vegetables. There is a basket that they use as a packaging there. There is the first one. Number 2, refurbishment of goods, right? Refurbishment where you will carry out some repair, right? Or change, make it looks new, refurbished. We can see many iPhone or PC that they are sold in the markets, refurbished models. That is what it means here, refurbished model, where those used products that's returned by the customer, either customer change with a new handphone, right? Or they sell it, the customer sold it. So what actually need to be done with this product is either you need to change some of the components of part to make it like new, right? For example, like the cover, right? The battery of the phone. So that is we call it as a refurbishment. The next one is a repair and maintenance, as per guarantee agreements, right? So this is quite common here, right? Products under warranty, and then needs to be repaired and then returned back to the customer, right? And then remanufacturing of goods from returned or defective items, right? Remanufacturing is almost like refurbishment. right? So here it is also in remanufacturing. What you need to do is some of the components or parts will be replaced, right? So that you can sell it to the primary or secondary market, remanufacturing. This is also another areas that is quite popular, right? The area of study or research, quite popular, remanufacturing. And then the last one will be the recycling, recycling and disposal, right? Recycling usually is done when you change total form of the products. You cannot see the original forms of that product anymore, right? Because you're going to change it. Some components or parts or materials can be recycled, but it's not applicable to all of them, right? Like aluminium, steel, right? You can recycle it. Plastics, for example, another one. But plastics also, there are a few types of plastics that you can recycle, not all types of plastics, all right? Another activities under the reverse logistics is the remarketing, right? So remarketing, selling of the used products to the secondary market, right? Either sell used product, recovered products, products that have been recycled before, or remanufactured or refurbished, and then you sell it again, or remarketing just is refer where you do the reorganization of the unsold products from the market to the different channels of distribution. Right? From company A, you change to another company, right? Or totally means take out from the markets, totally reshuffle, reorganize from the existing seller, now move to another seller, right? And the last one I can say is a disposal, right? Disposal, but this is also one of the activities under the reverse logistics. But here, if you look at the definition, disposals here is not means as a normal disposal. This require a proper disposal, right? And that's why I said in the circular economy, actually, disposals is not encouraged, right? Because disposals here means you need to throw it to the environment, right? Throw it to the environment. Whereas the idea of the circular economy is to fully utilize the products and goods and make use again, right? With a very minimum or with a zero waste practice, right? Under the circular economy. Okay. Right. Then we go to the next one. Now, when we all know the process of reverse logistics, we can also know the difference between the forward logistics or forward flow chain. Actually, there are two different flow, right? One is forward when you sell products to the customer, but reverse here is about you take it back, right, from the customer. Okay, and definitely in terms of the process will be totally different. Right. So what I can say, what makes it different between these two, because there's not too much in terms of implementation of the reverse logistics as compared to the forward logistics. Right? Forward logistics have been so long, right? The moment you want to sell your products, you must go to the forward chain. But reverse logistics is not really, I mean, in our country, but in other countries, it's already become consideration by the manufacturer, right, to implement the reverse purchase. Here, there are some companies that have practiced this, but there are some are not. Right? Most of the companies are focusing on the forward logistics as compared to the reverse logistics. Okay, so that is why reverse logistics has not been popular, because people are not, companies are not in practice. It's not popular, and that's why there are a lot of, I can see, deficiency, right, in the reverse logistics. But I think in the long run, right, you see, when the government has even have devised the policies that support for such practices, I think in the future is going to be changed in terms of the difference between the forward and reverse logistics, right? So you see here, it's very clear to see. For example, in the forward flow chain, there is a direct forecasting, but reverse still complicated, right? Because the reasons is we are not sure when you can get the product returns, right? Customer are different, right, in terms of the usage, okay? Like, for example, the refrigerator just now, some customer may use for 8 years, 6 years, 7 years, and some customer may use the refrigerators for 10 years, right? But in certain products, I think we can predict. Today, like electronics product, like laptops or PC, the life is getting shorter, right? Handphones, for example, is getting shorter the life now, right? So manufacturer can actually forecast in terms of the volumes that they can get from the returns. But for change is straightforward. They can forecast in terms of how many that they can sell, right? How many materials that they need to use. Everything's are all already established in the forward supply chain, forward flow chain, right? Forward, another point here, usage from one to many transport, okay? But here, reverse, you use from many to one transport. So this is actually applied to the supplier, right? When they deliver, if you have 100 suppliers, you may have about 100 transport that you require, right? And the same also if you would like to deliver the end products to the customer, you may use many transport because the customer may location is different from one place to another. Okay, but in the reverse flow chain, they apply a center of collection. So then you only require only one transport to move. And the collection will be done by the single transport only, rather than many transport, right? Forward flow chain and varying product quality. So a lot of practice that you can see is being implemented to standardize the product quality for the forward flow chain. That's why the products that produce are more standard in terms of the specification, in terms of the quality, almost standard. But for the reverse flow chain, it's totally different. Here you are taking the used product from the market, and used product, the quality are different because it depends on the usage and depends on the defects and depend on the how many years that the customer used. There are many parameters that can actually make the quality of the returns are different from one product to another, right? And for forward flow chain, standardized product packaging, right? You can standardize it, right, and deliver to the customer. But in the reverse flow chain, actually, those returns that you receive actually are in a damaged condition. The packaging are not standard, all right? So this is also another challenges that you may face in the reverse flow chain, right? And in terms of the destination of the delivery are certain, or routing also are certain, but for reverse flow chain, the destination are uncertain. Where is actually the product returns is heading for? Right? If it's initiated by the manufacturer, yes, it will go back to the manufacturer. But it's not initiated by the manufacturers, it will go to somewhere else which the destination is uncertain. Right? May go to the scrap dealers, but which one? Where? Where is it? Right? You are not certain about it. And sometimes you see, you look like in our daily life, some of the electronic products that we have no longer in use. What are you going to do? You don't even know where you're going to throw it, right? So what you need to do is just keep it at your house, right? So all the waste that you keep in your house, right? So you don't know where you're going to channel those used products. Okay? Then forward flow chain, consistent flow, right? In terms of delivery, productions are all consistent, but reverse is not consistent. It can be many, it can be very low, and we are not able to predict in terms of the movement, the flow itself of the returns. That's why I say along the time when reverse logistics becoming common and getting, I can say, implementation is getting accepted, it's getting accepted, then I think this kind of discrepancy can be overcome, all right? And in the forward flow chain, certain disposition of option, right? So you know how you're going to channel the product to, right? And if it's for forward flow chain, some defects you can still actually repair it because you know what is the types of defects, right? But products in the reverse flow chain, you're not sure what you're going to do with the disposition. Disposition means what? Recovery, salvage. What are you going to do with those? You're not sure. Until you have structured it, right? Structure the products. Or you have already designed the products for recovery. That is different. Then you can know what are the items that you can make use of it later after it reached to the end of life, right? But if you don't have the design, you don't have the structured information, what actually that we will do is we need to dismantle the goods, the used product, and then only we can see what are the parts and components that we can use it back. The same way of how the scrap dealers is doing, right? Okay. And then the forward flow chain is in terms of the pricing is consistent, right? So comes to the sales of the products, the price is almost consistent. Because what? The material price also is consistent, right? And even you can control the material price. And during the production also you can even control the costs, right? So eventually you can sell products at a more consistent price. But for product at the reverse flow is not consistent. The pricing is reliant from the varying factors, many. How serious is the defect, right? What components that require this, means recovery? What kinds of recovery? Is it a simple recovery? Or if you require recycling, definitely the cost will be much more higher. But in terms of the output, for the outputs for the recycling is where you can get many many usage of it. For example, like aluminium. So when you recycle it, right, you change the shape, the form, the shape of the products, and you can make use of it to produce for a new product. You can change it form. Right? So again, it depends on many factors. The conditions of your product return itself. How difficult to repair the product. That also will dictate on the price itself. Okay, so many factors you need to consider. All right. In the forward flow chain, speed is important, but reverse flow chain speed is not priority. That's why I say it, because it's not really accepted, right? So the manufacturer has not taken the used product as the materials that they need to use in the production. So that's why it's not become a priority. But in other countries, if they started to use it, right, the recycled materials, then this will be the priority, because they need to get the returns as many as possible, as fast as possible, so that they can recycle it. For example, like you see, like Samsung has already started to use the recycled plastics, right? Mainly to help the environment. Okay? You can even read, and it's interesting, you know, some companies even, they make use with the plastic waste that throw in the sea, you know. So, you know, our sea is polluted. You see, you go everywhere, it's polluted by the plastics, right? So there are companies that actually make use of that plastics, the waste from this, they can recycle and make use of it, mainly to help, so that you can actually use back those waste and produce the products. And then we can eventually we can rely less from the natural resources, right? And our natural resources, what are we going to do? We need also to keep for our future generation, right? So we cannot be just selfish to make full use of it until we don't keep for the future generation, right? So that is the sustainability is all about, right? And then distribution cost is highly monitored, yes, of course, in the forward logistics, but in the reverse flow chain, it's less visible. And this is difficult to monitor, right? Because you are not sure how the movements of the product returns itself. Right? To what levels, from how many parties, you are not sure to get the return. Sometimes it needs to go through many levels, right? Many parties before you can deliver to the customer, right? Deliver to the manufacturer. Sorry. It can go through the retailers, right? Customer can throw it to the dustbin, or they can throw to everywhere, and then there will be a waste collector that collect, and then this waste collector then will sell to the scrap contractor. And this scrap contractor later will resell to the manufacturer. It involves many parties. That's why it's difficult to monitor. Forward flow chain, stable inventory management, yes, but reverse flow chain is unstable. Mainly because the resources, the product return itself is inconsistent to manage, because there are many factors, parameters before means the customer can return the used products to the system, right? And then forward flow chain, able to manage the product life cycle, right? Company can manage its life from the design to the production, all right, until to the delivery and used by the customer. Okay? But for the reverse flow chain, this is difficult to manage because it's involved very complex product life cycle, right? Those products used product, they can go to many ways, right? Many parties. Okay, and it's difficult to manage it. For example, like a handphone, right? iPhone. When it's being changed with the new handphone, what happened to the old phone here? It will be sold to a customer, right? And one customer may buy and use it for a certain time, then they may then again sold it or resell it to buy a new phone, for example. And this old phone will change its hand, right? Will change its hand from one customer to another. So what is actually happened is, for that situation, is that product has been extended its life, right? So to manage it is a bit complex. You are not sure when actually the customer will throw it or does not want to use it. What we know, some of products is it will change its hand from as long as it can be used, right? People will want to use it, right? For example, like iPhone. There are many fans of iPhone. They would like to buy the second-hand phone, right? All right, then direct negotiation with the party involved, all right? But reverse flow chain is uncertain negotiation. You are not sure who you are going to deal with, right? Typical marketing methods, right? This is common, how you're going to market the product. But for the reverse flow chain, it's very complicated marketing, bound by many factors, right? So to sell used products also is not easy. Okay? Because we as a customer, we always thought that products that make use with the recycled components, actually, they don't have the quality. That is what actually that we have in mind, right? To most of our customers. But again, that's why I said those who are using Samsung today, actually, Samsungs are using its cover for its cover. 70% of its cover actually made by the recycling plastics, right? Either we realize it or not, but that is the reality. Okay. Then capable to track products on real time, and then less visible and difficult to track the products, right? For the reverse flow chain, less visible, difficult to track product, but the forward flow chains, we can track the products on the real time. Okay, so I think the moderator, probably we can take a few questions before I proceed with the next slides. Anyone here would like to ask the questions?
From the chat box so far, there is no question at this moment. Maybe we open any question from the floor, ladies and gentlemen, to all audience, to all participants today. Is there any question?
Yeah. Or if there is no questions, then I just proceed with my presentation. You can always stop me, right? If you have a questions. All right. So this is the sources of product returns. So there are three types of product returns sources. The first one is the manufacturing returns, right? So here, the returns here can be in the form of rework products, scrap, specification byproducts, or partial containers. There is a manufacturing returns. Then next one is distribution returns. This is what I've told you just now, right? On the damage, end of shelf life, contamination, right? That is happened actually during the delivery of the goods to the customer, and needs to be returned back to the manufacturer. And then the last one will be the customer returns. And I think this is the most concerned here, right? When the end of use product or ends of life product, repair, damages, warranty product, etc., etc. Right? This has become the most concerns because you see the statistics also have shown that the number of waste generations in our country is getting higher from years to years, right? It's getting higher. So there is a need here to do something about it, right? Not only to the party that involved in the waste management only, but it must also be become the concern by everyone, including the manufacturers, right? Manufacturers itself, right? So this is the source of product returns, right? Now there is a question here. What is the relationship between the reverse logistics and the sustainability? And I think in the beginning, if you can remember, in the beginning of my presentation, all right, I've explained a few things about how it relates to the sustainability, right? The first one, of course, is support the circular economy, right? When the products move is in circular, right? In circular, right? And materials with minimum and zero waste generation, right? So whatever products that we produce, right, when it reach to the end of life will be reused again and again. So there will be a very minimum waste generation, and the best is if you can produce a zero waste, right? So we will be less dependent on the natural resources, or we call it as the virgin resources, right? So when we reduce the dependence for the natural resources, and we can help, to preserve the resources, all right? The resources, especially to the non-renewable resources, for example, like oil, gases, for example. This is all. Means once you consume it, you are not going to, I can say, create it again. You're not going to create it again. So we can help to preserve the environment by, make use with the products that reach at the end of life, right? So that's very clear on the sustainability here, right? It's clear on the sustainability. Sustainable products that actually we will make use throughout these life cycles, and there is no waste that we generate, right? Be less dependent from the natural resources. This is all kind of sustainability, right? So that's why I say this is the relationship between the reverse logistics and also the sustainability, right? And salvage, reuse end of life products, parts and also materials, right? Resale, the used products in the primary and secondary markets also. This is another sustainable practices, right? That's why I say there are lots of opportunity that we can do a research in this area. If you look, this is just a few of the points of the sustainability where each of these actually can be the one of the areas that you can look at for you to do or conduct the research, right? Resale used product in the primary secondary markets, right? Recovering products, refurbishing, and pulling out such as precious metals that can be recycled or used, right? Recovering, refurbishing, this is all the sustainability practices. Make use again and again of the materials, right? And even for the reverse distribution just now, a company that implement the reverse logistics operation, usually they can cut out the unnecessary transportation move. So here you can definitely reduce the carbon emission. and also improve the air quality, right? And one thing that we need to know about this area is the importance of the designs of the products, right? We cannot wait until the products have been produced, then only we try to find the accessibility there. It's really difficult. Or in other words, they say end of pipe kinds of practice. Whereas the best situation is a product should be designed that incorporate with the environmental concern, where it can be recycled or the products can be extended of its life, right? So the design stage is very important to ensure the successful of reverse logistics. Actually, it depends on how good the products have been designed that incorporate with the environmental considerations, all right? And the last one will be the waste reduction and also environmentally sustainable practices, right? So this is also, I think, a part of the concern, right, by the government today on how we can reduce the waste generation. Okay, so I did a study on this, right, and I'm able to publish in Q3 journals, right, under the waste reduction. When I did a study with my students to see the we call it the factors that contribute to the waste disposal of electronic products in Putrajaya. Only in Putrajaya, we did the study in Putrajaya, right? And I managed to get a place in the Social Science Journal, Q3, because the reason is when you did, you see, like in Putrajaya, besides other places too, right? In Putrajaya, the government has came up with the policies that every customers need to isolate the different types of waste, right? To help the recycling or recovery of the waste. But unfortunately, that policy was failed. All right, if you read here, was failed. It's not being implemented, right? So that is the reason why we conduct the study, right? Okay. All right, this is on the accessibility here. Okay, so I think we almost come to the end, all right, because this is just a basics understanding about reverse logistics, all right? Almost come to the end of my presentation, all right? Probably in the future we will have another webinar on probably look into on other matters on reverse logistics, all right? So I just would like to share with you a few of the case studies, right, in the reverse logistics. So most of it actually is applied in overseas, right? So it's a bit hard to get any practice that is published from Malaysia. The companies, I mean the companies that implement the reverse logistics, right? So for example, like mobile electronics producer, Palm Incorporated, revamp its reverse logistics process to focus on refurbishing its goods, right? And then resells them using secondary channels, such as online corporate store and internet retailer, overstock record. Right? Refurbishing the return inventory for consumers rather than leaving it to be scrapped actually benefits the environment and as well as with the company profitability, right? Next one, Ericsson, global telecom supplier, actually modify design to reduce operating energy consumption, reduce product weight and volume, remove banned or restricted substances, right? And keep product disposal in mind throughout its product development process. So this is what that I told you just now, right? Designers must play very crucial role. Whenever it designs a product, it must have in mind about what you're going to do with this product after it reach to the end of life, right? So it must help the recycling process or any recovery process for the product for the use and produce for the new products, right? So here you must keep in mind the product is possible whenever you design for the product, okay? And pre-owned smartphone and second-hand phone usually now is given a second life by billions around the world, right? With a typical reconditioned phone now passing hands between two or more owners during its life cycle, right? So many people benefit from these kinds of process, right? With the reverse logistics, actually, those phones can be refurbished and sell to the secondary market, right? Primary markets is actually, of course, the customers that are looking for a new product, but the secondary markets is those who are looking for the second-hand product, right? And then again, this is like Samsung, they make use the plastics, right? Then after that, not only use the recycled plastics, but they also are looking into ways on how they can extend its life of this product, so that you can use it again, the materials, once the product has reached to the end of life, right? So that's just a few examples. So as a conclusion, this is what I'd like to say. This is actually from my own perspective. You see that this area is an emerging area, all right, in Malaysia. And also is relevant to the government policies, right? For example, like Shared Prosperity Vision 2020, it has a very clear policies on the circular economy, all right? And then 12 Malaysian Plan, 2021, 2025, and of course, the most that I think is quite popular is the SDG by the United Nations, SDG, Sustainable Development Goals 2030. It has a very clear, also another clear policies on the reverse logistics here. Right, so many opportunity to do research in this area. And this study is very limited in our country. Okay, and now you see this area has been evolved, right? Actually, the researchers around the world are looking from many perspectives, right? Basically, to enhance the reverse logistics practices as well as its impact, right, to the practical implementation, right? So this area has been involved, and now you see new terms has come into means the perspective today. For example, like closed loop supply chain into another. Actually, it's almost the same, but in terms of the process will be a bit different. There is a components of reverse logistics in the closed loop supply chain, circular supply chain, as well as the circular economy, right? So this is to share with you a few of my publications that I did in this area. That's why I say it's a lot of opportunity to publish in good journals. This is one of the top journals, right? In fact, factor now is 9.27, right? So I published in 2015, right? Another one in also in 2015. Then 2019, one paper also in the same journal, right? And then I have also from other perspective, like in this from the science journals, right? And also from the open transportation journal, right? So I'm the only author for this paper, right? So the role of transport in reverse distribution chains. So I look from the angle of transport on how it contributes to the reverse distribution itself, right? Okay, so I think this is also one of the things that I would like to do, right? To introduce the Research Nexus UiTM, right? So that to make all of you familiar what is actually a ReNeU, right? To all of you. Okay, so you see here, this is our organization chart, right? Led by Professor Dr. Noritawati Matahir as the director, and we have 6 trusts under the ReNeU. That is the trust that actually become the university's concentrations, right? To be successful in the GRU 2025, right? So this is the area. The first one is the health and wellness. Is under Professor Dr. Rohana Ahmad and is assisted by Dr. Nudiana, right? And then we have a vacant place of Deputy Director of Energy Environment, and we have the coordinator, Associate Professor Dr. Siti Nur Hajar, and then the next one is the area of industrial technology, led by Associate Professor T.S. Dr. Aida Mohd, and then it's actually assisted by the Dr. Natasha Matnawi. Then we have the third one is the social creativity and innovation under Associate Professor Dr. Nurul Hamiza Zamzuri, and it's actually assisted by Dr. Noor Azriana Azizan and myself, actually lead under the logistics and transportation, and my assistant is Associate Professor Dr. Rafeah Legino as a coordinator, and then the last trust under the research nexus is cyber technology, is led by Associate Professor IRTS Dr. Syed Abdul Muttalib Al-Junid, Syed Abdul Rahman, and his help is actually assisted by coordinator Associate Professor TS Dr. Abdul Hadi Abdul Razak. And in logistics and transportation, actually this is all the areas that we are looking at. And of course, I would welcome all of you to collaborate with us, right, into all of this area. We have 5 RIG and research initiative groups and also research group under us. And this is the sub area under logistics and transportation, which is transportation, logistics and halal hub, EV, unmanned vehicles, right? UAV, aviation, fine art, logistics. And then we have also Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, robotics, warehouse automation, blockchain, data analytics, cloud computing, autonomous vehicle, elastic logistics, port logistics. And the last one will be online store, e-commerce, trends, and these are all the sub-niche areas under the logistics and transportation. So I will welcome everyone to work with us, right, in this area, right? And we are going later to 7 campuses to promote the establishment of the RIG, Research Interest Group, under the areas under the logistics and transportation. We will go with the main trans together, right, to promote this area to all the campuses, UiTM campuses, right? So I think that's all. Thank you very much, right? Probably you have a questions you'd like to ask.
Assalamualaikum, Rizaimy. I have questions.
Salam, Prof. How are you, Prof?
Good, thank you. Thank you, Rizaimy, for giving us, to me, it's a very new knowledge to me and very interesting as well. And you mentioned about the reverse logistic would complements or align with the United Nations big agenda SDG, yeah? If you can share with us in what way out of 17 goals, how the reverse logistic will fit well with one or more goals. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much, Prof, for the questions. So it's a very good question, Prof. Yeah. Okay. There are 17 goals under the SDG. Yeah. And one of the specific goals is the SDG number 12, which is a sustainable consumption and production. Right. So under the SDG 12, right, it states very clear on the use of the recycle or use of the used products in the productions, in the production or manufacturing of the product itself. And under the SDG 12 is also mentioned clearly about the circular economy, the circular economy. So the waste reduction, and then sustainable consumption, the use of environmental friendly materials in the production. This is all actually covered under this. This is also include the transportation, right? Sustainability in transportation, where now you see countries they have been in control in terms of the carbons, the carbons itself, right? And every countries have been monitored, right? And that is actually put it very clear that to reduce the use of the carbon, definitely there is a need to conduct environmental friendly practices in that manufacturing or in the production itself, right? So I think that is a bit about the SDG 12, Prof. I hope I have answered your questions, right?
Yes, thank you. And listening to your presentation, in the Faculty of Applied Science, we have a new program. It's called Eco-Technology. I think what you have discussed earlier fit well, because the program intended to encourage, when we produce products, please look for the readily available materials. I mean, converting from waste to wealth, and also eco-friendly, green, and so forth. If I can perhaps get a copy of your slide, I can share with my colleagues, and I would like to encourage them, to, as you encourage, to work with ReNeU on the logistics and transportations domain. Thank you.
Yes, Prof. Thank you very much, Prof. I think the course is really relevant with the requirements of the industry itself. I think we really need such a course that actually can help the industry, right? In terms of the environment practices itself. Yeah. Of course, Prof. I'm more than happy that we can work together, right, with the logistics and transportation Nexus, right, in helping the faculties on that area. We look forward for that, Prof. Thank you very much for the opportunity, even for us to work with you and the faculty. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rizaimy.
Yeah, thank you, Prof.
Dr. Rizaimy?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can see here reverse logistic consists of all the operation related to reusing products and material. Yeah. So I can see here it's diverse, and there is a potential in terms of like not only the operation by itself, but it also how we sustain or reuse certain material towards. I think they are also considered and also potential for creative industry because certain practice they use recycled material, or even they use electronic material as to form and construct a form of design probably. So maybe in further collaboration we can consider this how I mean this reverse logistic can supply for create a creative production.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Rafeah, for the comments. I think yeah, as what I told you just now, the design stage is very crucial, right? So that the products during design we have to plan ahead what are the materials that we need to use, right? So that whenever the products, when these products can be these kinds of environmental friendly products, right? So in the same way in the design or fine art logistics, I think what is important is the incorporations of the environmental practices, right, in the in the design of that itself. In the practice of design itself, if we can incorporate the environmental practices separately, those waste can be reduced, right? So I think like design play a very crucial role, and the designers start working now. I think working on start from now on how those reverse logistics can be incorporated later, right? So it will be easier for the products later to be recovered, and then we can resell it back again to the secondary market. So I would like to share with you, those who are interested, to learn in this area. There is a very prominent, I can say quite popular magazines that you can actually read it online for free. There is no subscription fee, right? Reverse Logistics Association, right? So in that magazines, it will actually there are many news about the practice that is being carried out or implemented by the companies around the world, right? So you can always look at that the magazines, Reverse Logistics Association online. Okay? You can get many ideas on how actually that you can how you can do the study, right? On how you can embark for a new research in the area. Okay, from that magazine. In fact, myself too. Sometimes if I need ideas, I will actually refer from that magazine too. Okay. Is there any more questions?
There is me. So, what is the challenge in terms of in reverse logistics, like in how managing dangerous material? But we still want to use, but in other hand is the material is sometimes it's dangerous,
Okay.
But
Right. Hazardous materials, you must comply with the environmental law, right? Not all materials that we can use, right? And there is a standard practice of the use of this material. Hazardous materials are quite stringent in terms of its process. It's very stringent. The movement, as well as disposal of this materials. So you must comply with the regulations. Okay, this is, I think, the Ministry of Environment, right? They have put very clear guidelines on the use of the hazardous material, right? Even for disposal, not everyone can carry out the disposal process. You even have to need to use the service from the third party. I think all of you are quite familiar with this company, right? Environmental Idaman. Environmental Idaman is one of the companies that provide the service of disposal for the hazardous materials, right? And we can see quite rampant too. People manufacturers are disposing it to the environment, right? Without proper disposal, and that has caused few cases that we can see, like in Johor, for example. A few years back, this is what happened. So the company intend to save the cost of disposal for this hazardous chemical, so they just simply threw near the river, and you can see the effect to the people surrounding. So that is, I think, it's also one of the areas that we have to look at. Right? It's very important on how to again educate the manufacturers, right, to comply with the environmental regulations. Okay, I think that's all the answers. There's the answers for it.
Thank you, Doctor.
Yeah, welcome.
I think in the chat there is no question from the chat box. So probably before we end, is kindly fill up the attendance in the chat box for today. So all right, thank you very much, Associate Professor Dr. Rizaimy Shaharudin, for I mean it's very impactful and meaningful sharing for this morning, about reverse logistics, basic understanding for all. So is there any you want to share anything before we close our session, Doctor?
Right. One thing here that I would like to tell you that we will have more webinar after this from the logistics and transportation. So we hope all of you can support us, right? We would like to actually to make this area vibrant in UiTM, because there are a lot of opportunity, right, that we can do research in the area of logistics and transportation. So thank you very much for your support, and please wait for another webinar from Nexus Logistics and Transportation. Right? Okay. Thank you very much to all of you.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Salam Ramadan, and we'll see you again for next webinar in regards with logistics and transportation. Inshallah, we will see you again. Thank you, Prof. Nazib, for your support for today.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Prof. See you, Prof. Selamat puasa,
Yeah.
Prof.
That was very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Okay.
Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Prof.
Okay, Assalamualaikum.